Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're doing another movie episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's like a turd rolling down the street with me tonight?
Hello, I am the only scientist who can pronounce symbiote correctly, Joe Butler.
I wish I would have thought of something funny to say at the beginning, but I'm Adam.
And welcome. And where can people find you at, Adam?
I can be found at wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for You Hate to See It. It's me and my two best friends that we just get drunk and interview people.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Yeah.
I've been on there too, so
yeah,
a lot of drinking involved. And Nick and Jeff have both been on the show a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, Nick was on Batman War of Jokes and Riddles that came out not that long ago. So go listen to that. And we are here to talk about the 2018 film Venom that is not connected to Spider-Man in any shape or form at this point. It was Sony trying to make its own version of the MCU, essentially, with, you know, what few characters they have access to, which is just strange.
Now, to be fair, I'm completely 100% okay with this. I don't, like, Marvel always has a good thing of like, oh, all our movies are connected, but I'm also really like, man, I really wish they would just make single movies and then sometimes interconnect them, because I'm so sick of watching one thing and being, oh, you don't know who Black Panther is? You didn't watch the other 3 Black Panther movies? No.
Yeah, and it's just gonna get worse from here.
Yes,
It's already getting worse from here.
It doesn't bother me, but I completely understand where you're coming from. It makes sense.
I can't wait for now in the new Doctor Strange film for them to be like, hey, you haven't seen all the previous franchises that are just Marvel properties? That sucks.
Yeah, that's what's coming. I mean, that's one reason why I put this film on here, because we've done the original Infinity Saga of all the MCU movies. And since this, because of Spider-Man, spoilers, Spider-Man No Way Home is very sort of connected because of the second film, I decided, what the hell, let's do Venom.
Yeah.
So I somehow never saw Venom in theaters. I don't know why, but I completely missed this film in theaters. I can't remember why. I don't know why. And I like Venom a lot. I didn't see this one. I actually did not see this until yesterday for the first time. And I have seen Let There Be Carnage in theaters. So
What year was
weird?
yeah.
What year is Venom? Because I don't remember seeing Venom. 2018?
Yeah.
Right before COVID, right before the world ended.
2018.
Maybe that's what it was.
And then Venom 2 was supposed to be 2020, but, you know.
It was last year.
Yeah.
I think something came out when Venom came out, and that's why a lot of people didn't go see it.
2018 was the same year that Infinity War came out, Captain Marvel came out, and Ant-Man and the Wasp came out.
That would make sense.
That was a big year for Marvel.
I'm looking at 2018 movies and nothing's jumping out at me, but in October at least.
Didn't, and I think the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out like in December of that year. It came out after Venom. I just don't remember when.
I didn't see that either.
Did it come out Halloween?
Yeah, Venom came out for Halloween.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stuff that came out in 2018, just in general, and at least I'm not seeing any comic movies yet, or nothing that would have jumped out to me that would have been like.
Did the new Halloween come out? I feel like that's probably what it was.
Could have been.
Well, you did have Infinity War, Black Panther, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, Aquaman came out that year.
Aquaman.
Hey, that's a good movie.
That is a good movie.
I'm not a fan.
It leaves a bad taste in my mouth now after Amber Heard, but you know.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since all that shit happened, so I do like her though. So even though she's not a good person, but God, she's beautiful. But
yeah, I don't know if I would let her shit on my pillow or not, like she did the Johnny Depp, but it's close.
But yeah, I have not seen that movie since it came out in theaters. But no, Venom, I don't know why, but I completely missed Venom, and I've always been interested to go back. So when I came up with this poll, I threw it on here, I was excited to finally watch this. And this movie, like, it changes so much in the first, like, 10 minutes. One, there's no Venom at first, which is weird to me, but again, it's an origin movie. It's just been a while. It's been a while since I've seen a superhero origin movie at this point. I keep watching sequels.
Yeah.
But it starts off with all about a shuttle and a shuttle crashing. And I like this because I'm a big fan of comics. I haven't read a whole lot in a while, but I did read Venom Lethal Protector. I've read a bunch of the early Venom stuff. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. You have the shuttle. It's going to have the symbiote. That's where it's coming. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm cool with this. And it was interesting to me how you have the shuttle crashing. You have all these people dying at the crash site. And you have, before it even happens, you have them saying something broke out of containment. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get multiple symbiotes in this movie. And I was really excited for that.
Did you catch the really interesting Easter egg in that too?
What?
The only astronaut they find alive, his last name is Jameson.
Yeah, oh, I didn't catch that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's J. Jonah Jameson's son.
Yeah, so they kept that very in line, and I'm actually really I never noticed that before, so that's interesting.
That's
so
cool.
One thing I am upset of, I wish, because this other movie was released in 2017, so the productions would have like crossed timelines a little bit. I wish the Life movie with Ryan Reynolds would have been the prequel to Venom. Like, have you seen Life?
Mike doesn't watch horror movies unless Mike's seen it. But I've seen clips of it. Mike, if you could at least go look up, like, because I'm not going to spoil who dies first, but go look up at least a clip from that movie. The thing in that movie looks like a symbiote. And
it does.
I could very much believe that this is a prequel.
I've seen the trailer.
As soon as Venom came out and it started with the space shuttle crash, that's like basically how Life kind of ends without giving away too much. So I'm like, this would have been the perfect, like, to make a really cool, like, random horror movie that then all of a sudden you find out is the first movie of like a Venom trilogy or something like that. Like, it would have been great. Lost opportunity there, Sony.
Oh, was it made by the same company too? So
yeah, it was both Sony films.
And that movie did really bad too, even though it's got Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal,
yeah,
and like two other big name actors too. I think I can't remember who they were though.
I remember it coming out. I remember seeing it, and I remember like something about them being on the space station, and there's something like a goo or something that he finds in space or something like that.
It's like an alien, and it could pass for a symbiote, but it's like some kind of weird octopus thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not really goo. It's not really a symbiote, but the way that moves and stuff, it's basically a space octopus, which you could very easily put that as a like you could have just re-CGI'd the CGI character to look like a symbiote and just rename one of the characters from Life as the last name Jameson, and you have been good. Like, that's really all that is needed, and it would segue perfectly.
It also kills like a symbiote too, if I remember correctly, because I've never seen the movie, but I know about it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when it came out, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. That was as far as it went.
It's scary, but it's good.
No, I'll stay away from it then. I only watch horror movies, and this show makes me, which is not often because I control it. So,
but it's got Ryan Reynolds in it, and like, I'd let Amber Heard do a lot of things, but I'd let Ryan Reynolds do a little bit more. Like,
yeah.
No, he's awesome. I get it. No, but so that is cool. They had a Jameson reference. I wish I would have caught that because I would have appreciated it too.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't Jameson become a werewolf or something in the comics?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they do that in the new Werewolf by Night Halloween special that Marvel's doing on Disney Plus.
Oh
my God, are they? That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's the I don't know if Jameson's going to be in that or not, but who knows?
It was kind of a brutal opening too, I felt, and I got excited because at one point I think you see three or four different symbiotes that they have originally in the cases, in the containers. I thought it was 3, then the one broke out. 4, then one broke out.
I mean, I think might be 5 and one breaks out. I'm trying to remember how many.
I want to say it's 4 and then one broke out.
Okay, and I thought the one that broke out was going to be Venom. That was how my brain thought the movie was going to go because it looked like a black goo.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's Venom.
Yeah, 4 because I was trying to remember because I thought Venom broke out for some reason. But yeah, there was Venom and then there was 4. Venom has like 4 kids or whatever, and that's what those 4 were based off of, were like Scream and whatever those things are.
It's Scream, Riot, Fast.
Yeah. And I think in the comics those are his children, right?
Yes.
I don't know what they were in this movie, but they were his
not
children in the comics.
To be fair, besides Venom, 3 of them are unnamed, so it's fine.
Yeah.
which bothered me because one is like an orangey yellow goo, which is the same color as Scream, and I got excited because I have Scream's first appearance in comics. I'm like, oh, come on, guys.
I love Scream. I think Scream is my favorite besides Venom and Carnage.
Oh, it's Scream, Phage, Riot, Lasher, and Agony are the 4 from the Lethal Protector comic, which this is based off of.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where the Sinister Life Foundation is in, too. That's what they call them in the comics. I read Lethal Protector. It's a good little series.
My biggest issue, because I love Venom. I know enough about it. I always have approximate knowledge of most things. My biggest complaint about this movie, which is an Lethal Protector, but not this, is Lethal Protector takes place in Houston, where I'm from, and this takes place in San Francisco.
Oh, I thought Lethal Protector was San Francisco, California.
I'm 60% sure it's Houston.
No, it's San Francisco.
Oh, is it? Damn.
Yeah.
That's why
He goes from New York to California.
Embarrassing, Joe. Just
Damn.
real embarrassing.
That's why it's approximate knowledge, okay?
Yeah.
And I was,
Well, I think they made it San Francisco too for the movie because this was like right at the same time that Sony was trying to like forcefully interconnect their universe into the MCU without it being multiverse, like saying it was the same universe.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think they tried to like do enough references and hints and stuff, and then interviews and things like that, try and shoehorn Marvel into letting it happen, and Marvel was like, absolutely not.
I also know that I think this was also around the time when it's like, so are we going to get a third Spider-Man movie? And Sony was really like, no, because Disney won't succumb to our demands. And
yeah, I think that was like right after Venom came out, like the summer after Venom came out, they were like, oh.
Yeah.
And they had just done the interview with Amy Pascal where she's like, yeah, we are in the same shared universe. And Kevin Feige was like, what?
Yeah, no, I remember all that when they weren't sure we were going to get more Spider-Man movies, and I'm glad we did because No Way Home is amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my notes I put scientists upset. I think then you have like the whole team of these people all just throwing a fit and upset because the shuttle crashed and they don't know why. Essentially, it was supposed to be one of the symbiotes got out and started killing people. I'm assuming is what happened with the crash.
I mean, that really sounds like the whole plot of life right there. Really missed an opportunity, guys.
Well, now, to be fair, it's a little A and B, we'll get a little bit into it because it's jumping forward just a little bit. What is it? Have either of y'all played the Miles Morales Spider-Man game?
No, I purchased it for a PS5 because I thought I was going to get the PS5 when it came out. And so I have the game sitting there waiting for me to buy a PS5.
That's fair. I understand.
I've yet to play it.
Not very a big spoiler because it's in the comics. I always like how a new villain in most things are just, hey, look, guys, it's not Elon Musk. Because the bad guy in this is not Elon Musk, and the bad guy, the guy that runs Roxxon for the main villain for Miles Morales, is just Elon Musk.
Well, honestly, like that's literally like every Iron Man villain, really is.
That's fair too, yeah.
Even Iron Man is like Elon Musk. Like if Elon Musk got shot, he becomes Iron Man. If Elon Musk has a bad day, he becomes literally any Iron Man villain. Like
he's also an Iron Man too, has a cameo.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny. And then you have like a small scene where you see a symbiote who got out of the crash site, who escaped, and then like takes over one of the random guys there, like kills him, and then takes over another, and then you have him get inside a van, and then when they're inside like the van, he just wakes up and kills the driver or whoever it was, and then you just see that person all broken walking away. And I really like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Like the symbiote trying to find like a host that could carry him. I don't know what the science is there of why the majority of people can't host a symbiote, but one person can. Which
is not true when you think of the comics, because I think almost anybody can fuse with a symbiote if it wants to. It just doesn't choose to with everybody, but it doesn't just murder them like that.
As far as I remember, because it changes every every year. The only worst host Venom's ever had is just Peter Parker, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, because Peter Parker, he doesn't when he's with Peter Parker, he isn't really as in charge of it as with other people.
Yeah.
I think that might, like, here's my headcanon, because I haven't read enough of the comics to understand. I feel like Venom not being able to control Peter Parker is partially probably due to Peter's spider sense and ability to constantly be fighting off Venom's internal, like, takeover of the mind to an extent.
I think that makes sense.
If that makes sense. So it's just a constant, like, small battle, and he just becomes ornery and pissy and dances funny. And
that's not Venom. That's just a terrible thing. I disagree. That is not Venom.
I also completely forget that this movie's also after the whole Tobey Maguire. That's Venom. So I love the difference between who's your favorite Eddie Brock. Is it Topher Grace or is it Tom Hardy? Those are your only two choices.
And
both are not that great.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have Tom Hardy, but both are really kind of bad. I will say the one good thing about Spider-Man 3, though, is I'm the weird guy that liked the look of Venom. I liked the whole black suit, and I liked the whole Venom look.
The Venom or the Spider-Man?
The both.
Okay, I do like the black on black Spider-Man suit where you can still see the webbing on top of
yeah. It's a cool suit.
But backpedaling a little bit, my always idea of Venom through Peter Parker is Peter knows that, like, the symbiote's something that he can have. So my always thought was, like, Peter's always like, oh no, the symbiote's taking over me. Now I have to just be this angry asshole. And the symbiote's always like, no, why? I'm gonna go ahead and get off you. Why? You're making me a bad person. No, you're making us into a bad person, and that's kind of why I hate you.
Yeah.
I was just surprised who it was. It turns out to be that symbiote that you had running around. I know I'm saying it wrong. And then you get the title screen right after this too, which one thing with this show, I always like to keep track of when the title screens are, because when we did the MCU movies, they wouldn't put them in sometimes till way later.
Yeah.
Because you know what you're watching, you know what you're getting. So I always thought that was cool that this is so much earlier, because you don't really know, they don't really have a built-in audience exactly. They're like, we got to put the title screen in immediately.
I love it when the title screen is at the beginning. I think, like, as Marvel got more comfortable, they put the title sequence at the end of the film, and I hate that. I much prefer, like, you have, like, a little preamble and then you have a break. Like, you can build suspense really quickly for, like, this preamble, and then you have a break and to tell a different side of the story afterwards. I much prefer this. I think that was the only good thing about Black Widow, was the title sequence was at the beginning.
It's a good movie.
I hate Black Widow.
That was supposed to be, that was on the poll, actually, and people did not choose. Oh, I should say, this was a Patreon poll, so thank you, patrons, for voting for this movie. And this is where I didn't like where the movie went for a bit. Again, this is more of a personal issue, but it bugged me. So it goes to California, and it wakes up, and you start out with Tom Hardy, who plays Eddie Brock in this movie. Tom Hardy is neither Tom Hardy nor Topher Grace is what I think of when I think of Eddie Brock. I think of a big, tough guy, like a Stallone back in his prime. Someone like that, because that's what Eddie Brock looks like in the comics. Eddie Brock does not look like a little guy. I mean, I know Tom Hardy became a big, I was born in the darkness, but it's not Tom Hardy to me. And you have, like, this whole montage of how he's this great, he's just this great, what the hell is the word? Reporter, and he takes down bad people, and he's he's working for the people, and he's helping us out, and he's good at his job. And you have this whole montage of, like, okay, and you see him having a happy life. He's got his fiance, and they got a date night coming up and everything. And I'm like, things are gonna go terrible, aren't they?
I think. I don't think Tom Hardy was necessarily a bad choice for this movie. What I do think is Tom Hardy's accent was a awful choice for this movie.
No, he did fine.
I think, and it's not like his accent's bad. It's just like Tom Hardy's now big enough that this accent just is not what you go into it. Like, Tom's gotten to the point where he's famous enough for so many things that you can separate the character from the actor. So then when you see the actor doing something weird, it's like you freak out a little bit. Whereas, like, Robert Downey Jr. got famous for only playing Robert Downey Jr. in everything he ever does. so you know who Tom Hardy is, and then this weird accent just doesn't fit him. If I saw Venom first and then knew who Tom Hardy was after, it's a different story. But I know Tom Hardy, so
Well, he's been in a lot of movies.
yeah.
This is the point to where I know a lot of people know Tom Hardy from 2 specific movies, and I swear he's dubbed in both those movies, and you both know what movie I'm talking about. I don't think that's his real voice in The Dark Knight Rises when he's Bane, and I don't think that's him in what the hell is it? Furiosa. That's Tom Hardy in Fury Road, right?
Mad Max, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know anything about the Mad Max stuff, but I know for Dark Knight Rises that was his voice, but because the mask, they couldn't hear him at all when filming, so he then had to dub himself after the fact.
Is that why he sounds British?
It's and I think I think that was just his own personal choice, because Tom Hardy is British. I think he's from Britain.
Yeah, he's British.
Yeah. So I think he just didn't do a good enough job at hiding his Britishness when clearly he wasn't born. Like, that character wasn't born in Britain, so why he was British to begin with is strange. But that character was born in the Middle East.
I also, just for my sake and everyone else's sake who's on my side with this, I am absolutely in love with Tom Hardy. He's a very handsome man. And as much as people regretfully will probably disagree with me on this is a gay man's movie. This is Tom Hardy starting off his relationship with Venom. And I know that for a fact because when this movie came out on DVD, it came out on Valentine's Day. And the DVD release is a Valentine's Day trailer where it literally says, "Celebrate Valentine's Day with your favorite couple, Eddie Brock and Venom."
So basically, Eddie Brock is Lokiing himself because Tom Hardy also voices Venom.
Really?
Yeah, so so he's just fallen in love with himself is really what we're getting at, and we're going to have some... I don't know whether this is incest or not now, but it's definitely self-gratification of some way, shape, or form. But yeah, so Tom Hardy would record, on the spot. He would... They had a microphone on set. He would record his Venom lines. They would run him through a quick whatever to make the Venom voice, and then and then he would just go on to set and play it. And if they're it'd be cool if we had Venom say this, he'd be okay, run off to the side, record Venom's line, then run back onto set and go back and forth.
Okay.
I never looked up who voiced Venom in either of these movies, so it's actually interesting because I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I mean, makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was him being himself.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying is Tom Hardy went into his own body as a fluid form.
Okay.
The fluid of Tom Hardy entered Tom Hardy and took over his body.
Totally. Also, Tom Hardy has his own Alex Jones show, so that's also the other reference that I put down in my little notes. Is this just the Alex Jones show?
Oh, the interview, the show. Okay, I didn't get that. The whatever the hell it was called, the Brock something.
Yeah, it's like the Eddie Brock hour or something like that. I don't fucking know.
Okay, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it.
Yeah, it was that was the least important parts of Eddie Brock's entire character.
Well, it doesn't last very long either because he meets with so he meets with his boss and he has okay, you're gonna go interview this guy and make sure you just ask him about the rocket and you just do these simple questions and then that's it. He has a lot of money and I'm like okay, and this is why I don't like Eddie Brock because he fucks himself in this movie. Because you have the dinner date, which is a cute little scene.
We already talked about him fucking himself. We get it, Mike. Come on.
That was a figuratively part. And you have the dinner date, which is a nice scene. I'm like, and they're all close, and I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna go over well. I could tell what the movie was coming. I liked it. I liked seeing him with Anne. I liked Anne. I'm like, I don't want to see this character have bad shit happen to him immediately, and then 5 minutes later. You have him reading her email, after the dinner date, she's sleeping at their home and they have sex, and he starts reading her emails, this confidential one. I'm like, why does he know her password? I get it, but still, just you think if you're a lawyer or somebody like that, you would have a more complex password that your boyfriend wouldn't be able to your fiance wouldn't be able to figure out.
Did he? I don't remember. Did he figure out her password or did he just know it?
I think he just knew it. You just see him type it in.
Because I'm like, I know my fiance's passwords to stuff, but that also doesn't mean I go in and stalk her things.
But it's like if you were a lawyer,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a confidential lawyer thing. You think you would have something where they couldn't, like you would have to, like with, just because of that type of job.
Yeah.
Where you can get, where not when one thing when people you share information with, it's another thing when very few people have a certain type of information. It's not hard to figure out where it came from.
Yeah.
Especially whenever it says, hey, this is for your eyes only. Make sure that someone doesn't see it. You should at least take a step back and be like, maybe I shouldn't go through my wife's email. That might get her fired.
Yeah, or at least not talk about it. Like he reads the email, and then, right after this, you have the next scene where he's at, you have Drake talking to a bunch of kids to make Drake seem like, oh, he's a wonderful guy. He didn't just sentence these people to death. No, he's great. And then when you have him doing the interview, it doesn't take long before he starts saying, what about this person? What about this person that died? Like completely disregarding, what he was told to do, not to mention saying information that he shouldn't know.
So, like, were those the people who died on the spaceship is what I'm thinking that was?
So it was too soon to be saying things that people did not have access to yet.
Yeah.
And that was his, and to me, it bugged me because I'm like, I know it's Venom and I know where things have to go. And like with Venom, a big thing about the character is that in the beginning, he's a villain, he's broken down. And then he, has like his, God, words are not coming out to me right today. Like his not reform, but his like rebirth, let's say, like I think of a better word. And then you see him, become a better person because with Venom and things. But I didn't want to see that happen. And it bothered me to see him just have all this bullshit happen to himself because he was an idiot and made, and then he gets fired right after this. And the guy's like, well, who's your source? And he can't say, and you think the guy who's a reporter would know I shouldn't be saying something that I can't back up in any shape or form.
Yeah. So
that just was kind of like,
speaking of Anne, how do we feel about her Michelle Williams wig?
It's a wig. That's a wig, and
that's very clearly a wig. I don't know why they didn't let her have her short hair, but all right.
I didn't realize that.
Oh God, Mike.
Well, I don't think I've seen Anne Williams in anything that clicked.
Well, she was in I don't know. She was in Greatest Showman, but she had a wig on for that too.
Well, I've seen parts. I've seen a minute of it.
Oh, she was in she was Marilyn Monroe in My Date with Marilyn, and that's her normal hairstyle. Is in that movie.
I want to say, like, the way I can tell it's a wig is the same reason as Ant-Man. It's the bangs. You can just tell by the bangs.
Oh yeah, the bangs are always bad. Bangs do not fall on the head that way.
She has short hair normally. Okay. They could have just gone with the short hair. I mean, this is not based off any character, really.
No. I want to tell you how important having long hair was to that character. It really made a difference in the film, Mike. It was structurally important. If she had short hair, the whole plot falls apart.
It's just one of those dumb things. Like, I mean, I don't like. I have no problem with wigs. I didn't notice it, but also, it's just. I mean, certain characters just go with however the actress or actor looks. Sometimes it doesn't matter. She's not based off. I mean,
literally, they got drunk Tom Hardy to come in for half the movie. Like,
that's what it looked like. Oh no! Oh, the fictional character that she's based off of does have short hair.
Oh, that's even worse then.
that they made her change it to look less like the character. Great.
Sony always making the worst decisions ever.
And I guess she becomes She.
I don't know. They almost made an Aunt May movie. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Wait, did they really? Because
they were going to.
Yeah, it was, and it was when The Amazing Spider-Man was still going to get its own franchise, and there was supposed to be an Aunt May centered film where she was like a spy. It was basically James Bond, but Aunt May.
Okay, I actually probably would like that just a little bit.
Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Why don't you just make a female James Bond movie then?
Well, if my somewhat understanding too is Spider-Man would have been The Amazing Spider-Man would have been based off the Ultimate series. So you probably could have teased Venom in the Aunt May standalone movie, but that also reminds me of the really dumb Teen Titans Go movie joke where everyone's getting movies and they make a joke and like Alfred's getting his own movie. So that's the thing it reminds me of.
Alfred has his own TV show.
Yeah, the movie didn't happen. I think there was a bunch of stuff planned that got shut down, but I do remember talking about the Aunt May movie and all that stuff that they were going to do that did not work out so well for them.
Sony's over here making big brain moves.
Not very big brain.
No, not at all. All right, and then this is when you have a small scene where he goes and he sees Anne, and she got fired. And she's carrying a box. He's like, "What do you got there?" It's like, "What do you think happened, buddy?"
You got me fired, you big lip butt.
Literally, do you see what's in my hands? Do you see the cliche that doesn't necessarily happen in real life every time? Like,
I don't have it
I
at
got
all.
fired.
I've been fired multiple times.
And you weren't given a Office Max box to pack your stuff up in and walk
I
out?
didn't have an office when I was fired. They're retail jobs, but
that is I think that's on you then, Mike.
But where I currently work, I work in an office, and I did see somebody once get fired. And they didn't leave with a box; they just were out the door. Then later on, they came and got their stuff
with a box.
No, it was a fridge.
Oh,
I don't know. One day the fridge just wasn't there anymore. So
I thought you just meant that like they just tipped the fridge over and stuffed all their stuff and then carried it out in a box. Like
they
didn't give me a box. I might as well use my refrigerator.
No, they didn't get a box. I can tell you that, but there was no box carried out. It was just, "You're fired." Okay, bye. See ya.
Also, full offense to Tom Hardy, it's like, man, or Eddie Brock, like, man, Eddie, it's one thing to get fired from your job. It's another thing to also get me fired from my own job.
I mean, go big or go home. Like,
he tried to, and that's like, I think the whole point of his new stuff, and which is also done better than I'm going to poorly Photoshop a money bag into a black Spider-Man's hand. What? And then not understand why I got fired for that. And then,
no. I think that's completely a valid thing to do.
And then go
about now.
And then go, and then go pray to God that something bad happens to Peter Parker.
He specifically wants him to kill Peter Parker, which is definitely in God's MO. Like, that's God. Oh, I'm gonna get real now. Okay, jokes are gonna start coming up. Let's move on.
And then this is where you have, then it jumps. So he gets fired. He loses the girl. I didn't like this. I'm like, it bothered me. Like, it makes sense. It's fine, but this is a me thing where it made me sad. And then you have it jump back to the EMT who was taken over, who I really thought was Venom, and she walks into some like little market or something and just starts killing people. Because I thought that was odd, but you get to see, like the symbiote type stuff where they make the blades and kill people, and I'm like, okay, fine. Even though in my comic stuff, the first one to make blades was Carnage, but hey, that's fine. Do what you want.
So I was watching the end of this movie, and I'm probably super wrong, because I'm usually wrong about most things. Mm-hmm. Is there ever a reason in comics as to why Venom can't make blades?
I don't think it's that easy. From my understanding of the symbiotes and what I used to remember in the cartoons and stuff, the only one that ever did it was Carnage. The other one did not make the blade.
Yeah.
Because Carnage was a psychopath host before the symbiote.
Okay. So it's just weird movies and stuff like that where other symbiotes do it because they want them to... everyone loves Carnage.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think it's just, at this point, I think it's just a Carnage thing because, people love Carnage.
I feel like in the movies, it's more of just like what's in their wheelhouse. Like Iron Man can definitely hit people with a shield, but that's Captain America's thing. Like,
oh yeah, that's fair too.
I can hit people with a nunchuck, but does that mean I'm going to walk around with a nunchuck all the time? Not necessarily. So,
and then you have like the time jump. You have 6 months later, and the first thing you see how the scientists have been working at the Sinister Life Foundation, and they for the first time get a symbiote, which look just like Scream, to connect with a rabbit.
Goo tubes.
Mm-hmm. And I got excited. I'm like, we're gonna get, because I didn't know anything about this movie. Like, this was a movie coming in, I knew nothing, which is odd to me that I really did know nothing. But I just didn't know. I had never paid any attention to this movie. I didn't know where this movie went. I didn't even know who the villain was in this movie beforehand, which is not normal for me to be watching a movie from 3 years ago with a comic book.
I don't think the movie knew what its villain was, still to this day. So
okay, that's a fair. But yeah, I was just confused, and then I mean, that was kind of a cool scene with the bunny. Then you have him at a bar, just all sad and depressed, and I'm like, because he has no, he lost his job, he lost his girl, so now he's just at some shitty bar having a drink.
The bar that looks like the bar from Deadpool.
You're not wrong.
It could have been the same bar. Sony was probably just being like, if we can't join the MCU, might as well join Fox.
Even though
this is pre-merger, so anything's possible.
Anything is possible. They always
Yeah.
leave out open opportunities. What is it? The kid from Iron Man 2 is Peter Parker, even though the age doesn't match up.
That's fine. You're thinking too much into this, man.
oh yeah, I forgot about that dumb retcon that they said that's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And then you have a small scene where he goes to a convenience store and you have somebody getting robbed and he doesn't do anything. He just hides behind there. Again, what is he going to do? He's just a sad guy. He's not going to do anything.
I'd like to point out Mrs. Chen steals the show every time she's on screen.
Yeah.
I love Mrs. Chen.
It was just it was a fine scene. It was just funny. I'm like, I know this is going to pay off later for me, since I had saw Let There Be Carnage first, I knew Mrs. Chen was in that movie and she knew who Venom was because Venom takes over Mrs. Chen at one point in that movie.
Yeah.
My notes is love Mrs. Chen. To be fair, a gun is threatening. I can barely afford rent Mrs. Chen. What makes you think I own a gun?
Okay. And then right after that, you have, as I put in my notes, an apartment sad. Because he's just, that's just how I took it. He's just in his apartment and he's just like, everything, life sucks. And his apartment is shitty compared to what he had, except he's in California. So I'm sure that apartment is like $2,000 a month for rent or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
His neighbor sucks too.
The guitar guy. I'm like, oh, this is going to pay off later. Like, I could tell exactly what they were setting up. Like, you knew right where it was going.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me, but it just amused me and then you get a kind of scene where it starts to get a little bit of a horror movie in a sense, or start to get kind of like much darker as a film, which fits. But you have them cut back to the scientist lab, and you see them. The guy's like, okay, you have your first test subject, where he just brings a guy in who I'm assuming was a homeless guy based on the way the movie goes. That they just paid, like, here, sign this contract, and they bring him in this room and they're talking to him. He's like, Isaac is a Bible name. I'm like, is that necessary? Like, you don't need this whole thing of, I believe in Abraham, what he said. And I'm like, I don't care. I know where this is going. And then, sure enough, they open a capsule and the symbiote kills him.
You have to really put on, what is his name? I wrote it down here. Carlton Drake, which they never say just Carlton. They have to refer to him as his full name. How you have to really put on that he is a bad person, even though he's testing on homeless people, which I think is also a really good plot point, because there's a part where
he's supplying jobs to the homeless, and that makes him a saint.
Also, it's from the comics. In the comics, homeless people are going missing in California, and that's partly why Venom gets involved, because no one cares about them.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the point of Eddie Brock's character, which I guess kind of makes him like, I guess he was always trying to help people through the news, because on like the big montage in the beginning, the first thing he's talking about is how there's too many homeless people in California, and that's why he's nice to that homeless woman on the corner whenever he's like walking home.
Oh yeah, because he gives her more money than he gives her money and stuff.
And he can barely even afford like a can of peaches.
Yeah, I was like, okay, but that was fine. That didn't bother me, but no, I completely get it. I guess it's to show the more caring person. And then this I thought was odd, where you have the scientist who, after seeing one of the head scientists, after seeing somebody get just massacred by the symbiote, and they're doing human test subjects, she goes in to recruit Eddie Brock, this guy who is a failed reporter at this point, and she's like, "Well, you knew the truth about Drake. You said it like it was 6 months ago. This guy has no reputation anymore. Like, he ain't gonna be able to help you."
Yeah. I did like her. That scientist, I did like her a lot.
I did too.
I don't remember her name. I know she used to date Chris Evans, but that's it.
I don't remember her name either. I didn't.
Jenny Slate, maybe. I think so.
That sounds right.
But it was cool. I mean, it was just odd. I mean, I like the scene where she's following him in the convenience store, and then he's like talking about how hiding and she can't do it and stuff. I'm like, okay, that was fine. Like, it was amusing enough, but it was just weird to me that they approached him.
They clearly did not know what genre this movie was supposed to be, because it was kind of like Tom Hardy they told Tom Hardy that he was going to be in like a black comedy, and then the movie was a horror movie. Like,
So I found the best description of this movie. I think it was IGN's review of it, and I completely 100% agree with it. If this movie was made when Daredevil and Spawn came out, it would have sold millions.
Yeah.
Because this movie so much feels like a 2000 campy, you have like, what is it? In the trailer, the only lines they use for Venom are literally the only times Venom's in the movie. So of course, trailers back then used to all the time, but it's like, oh, this movie was too behind on the time.
Yeah, it's like one of those films of like in the era like we dealt with the weird angsty teenagers in the 90s, and now those angsty teenagers that you related to are grown up and like comic book movies. So you make all these weird angsty adult movies. Like this is right there. Right? In 2004, this movie would have sold billions of dollars. This would beat out Avatar at the box office, like right there.
And we'd be hearing about like Wesley Snipes' Blade versus Venom at some point.
Oh yeah, we would have for sure. That would have
Martin Scorsese would have been pissed years ahead of its time. Like,
and then Eddie, after for some reason he wanders over to his ex fiance's house. He's like, "Ann, how you doing? I'm just walking around." Like I'm like, "What the fuck, guy?" Like, I mean,
you live here? I'm just passing through.
He's just so stupid. Like, oh, I didn't know. Like, I didn't stalk you on the internet at some point. Oh, hey, and then you see her boyfriend who's a doctor, and he's like, he has a key. He's like, that's what happens, buddy. When women leave you, like they find someone else quicker than you do. Usually,
I do feel like 6 months is relatively fast to.
Hey, I got in my true story. I had one of my first serious girlfriends leave me, and she was married in less than a year. So I can buy it.
Oof.
And then had a kid too in less than a year and married. So yes.
So Mike, why aren't you Venom? Like you're following the same pattern, but you're just slightly less cool, just a little bit.
I never got any goo yet. I guess I haven't found the goo. Give me powers.
Ask Tom Hardy. He's got plenty of his own goo to give out.
And then you have Eddie goes. Okay, I have in my notes Eddie's doctor. I don't remember what that was. Oh, when he meets the doctor again when he calls her and he's just like. Again, that was also odd to me. Like, really, you work for a sinister corporation and you're just going to give this guy your number, like the corporation not going to figure out, like your number off your business card.
Did you guys catch the name of the cat?
No.
The cat's name was Mr. Belvedere.
Is that a reference to something?
It's an old TV show from like the 90s. Yeah.
That's why I didn't get it, because I didn't care. Okay. That's cool though. That's there. I don't want to make it sound like that. I'm just like, okay, that's why it didn't make any sense.
Wow, cool fact, Joe.
No, I didn't want to sound like an asshole. That's why I came out like, oh wait, that's not what I meant.
The only thing I think it's funny and cute because I always think it's weird when people name their animals normal stuff. Because like all my cats, I attempt to name them after food or references to TV shows.
So your next cat, though, if it's not named Tom Hardy's Fluid, I'm gonna be upset.
Come here, Tom Hardy's Fluid. Come on.
No, what is it? My dog. My husband named my first dog after what he was, and he's not. We thought he was a Chow, but he's a Shiba. So I have a Shiba named Chow Chow. The Chihuahua is Chad after the Hispanic guy from Bleach. My cat is Mumbles, named after the cat from Dan Versus. He named his cat Mr. Mumbles. And we didn't know what Mumbles was in the beginning. And she also ended up being a girl, so she went from Mr. Mumbles to just Mumbles.
All right. My cats are named PETA for pain in the ass. That was before I met my wife. And then our 4 cats that we've gotten since then are named Romeo, Juliet, who both hate each other, and Kira, named from Dark Crystal. And then the other cat named Toby, but that was the name he came with when we rescued him. So only one has a name based off a movie. Okay. That's not where I expect this conversation to go. And then you have this really bothered me. Like this just was stupid to me on a movie standpoint and like real life, even though this is not real life. Somehow she takes Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock, and gets him into the secret lab. And there are no cameras outside the building, no cameras in the lobby, nothing. Just one security guard walking around.
So that's one of those things that I'm like, there should be cameras, but at the same time, if you're doing some sketchy shit, the last thing you
would still have cameras in your lobby.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not where the labs are because you don't want that being recorded. I can buy that, but not the lobbies. I have been to enough office buildings, enough places, there would be cameras everywhere in the lobby.
Oh, yeah. Also, I also think that it's also really funny because I think he's looking at the lab before he calls her, right? He has like the most evilest lab. It's like on a cliffside.
Yes.
But
straight up, like, I'm a villain.
Like,
yeah.
That lab was so sinister looking from the outside, I thought it was going to be important.
It wasn't.
It's really not important at all, but...
They were just proud they made it, so they wanted to show you. And then you have him going around, he's taking pictures, And he finds Maria, the homeless woman that he met earlier and bought the paper from and gave her money that he didn't have. And like he breaks her out of there. And I'm thinking to myself, you're already in a place you're not supposed to be. And you think there won't be an alarm when you start hitting things and trying to open things? Like, come on now. I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to get the police now.
Yeah.
Not, all right, because what's going to happen when we break this open and the security come, they're just going to shoot both of us and we're going to leave, right? Like, they're just going to let us leave. They're not going to shoot us, right? Like, come on now. You broke into their place. They have all legal rights at this point. They will kill you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he had a gun. Yeah, he had a weapon.
Did those guards have guns? I don't remember.
They were shooting at him while they're chasing after him in the woods.
Yeah, but I thought that was like what's his face's elite team though that was chasing him. Because I remember whenever he's like, "Who broke into my lab?" He's like, "You, Mr. Baldman, you're my main in command."
After. The first part is him getting chased by security, and they all do have guns. And then, the place has a huge amount of security, which I can understand. Like, that, especially when you are doing, shady things. But in general, I can understand it in general that they would have this type of, security force for this, super expensive company.
There's also like a forest that gets referenced twice that they like you go out there and just run around in the forest.
It happens twice in this movie, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you got that much money, you can build what you want, I guess,
Yeah.
I feel like that was probably just because they like lost a location. We're like, well, we wrapped early at the forest. We still got like 2 weeks left of our time here. Like, might as well.
I found this odd that like I was a little surprised when Maria breaks out and she gives him the symbiote that it was Venom that whole time. Like she had Venom. I really thought Venom was the one that was in China working its way here. That's just what I thought was going to happen with this movie. So I was a little surprised. I'm like, okay. And then he finds Venom, and then you have a whole, he doesn't understand what's happening, where then he's just running in the wood trying to escape. And he slowly does things he shouldn't be able to do. He breaks through trees. He climbs a tree at one point faster than he should be able to. And he's starting to realize something's wrong. And then he gets really stupid shortly.
He never realizes because he's
an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot. He jumps off the side of a wall. Which is kind of like, okay, maybe I did that. That's probably adrenaline. He breaks through a door off the hinges, which maybe you can be like, okay, maybe that was a shitty door. But then he breaks through a tree and then climbs a whole other tree. And he's like, oh, that is weird. I guess I'm just going to go home now.
That's what you do. After you break into a place of high security, you just go home thinking nobody will remember who you were or realize where you came from.
Or no one's going to follow you or anything.
Yeah,
like,
just go home.
Just go straight home. Like, don't serpentine, just straight line there.
Don't try to lose them. Just go home.
I'm sure no one saw me. It'll be fine.
If I thought about breaking in some place, I would like just circle the state multiple times before I went home.
Mm-hmm. That's what you're supposed to do.
I don't know.
You're not supposed to just go home. I know a guy who tried that once. He went to go rob a McDonald's, and he lived down the block. So his plan was to rob the McDonald's and then go down the block, and they will never find me.
Okay, so new segments on your show, Mike, where we tell criminals what to do to get away. So, don't go straight home. Rob the bank, and then maybe go elsewhere for a few days, and then go home.
Go hang out at the library. You have a Y membership. Hang out, get your showers done there.
Yeah.
Get rid of all the evidence and
hide the money in the YMCA locker and just go for a run on the treadmill for a little bit. Cool off. Like I
was here the whole time.
Let the society calm down a little bit before you go home.
Hey, you can hide stuff in the Y all the time. Look at Hawkeye. It worked well for him.
It really did.
All right, then you get back to the apartment, and this scene just irritated me because it's just like all of a sudden he's like, I'm hungry. And he starts eating garbage at one point, and he starts just like grabbing things, and he's just ripping stuff out, and he rips a bag of frozen tater tots and eating them. Like, I'm just like, I can understand. Like, I thought it'd be meat, that he'd be craving meat because the symbiote, but he was just craving anything like the Flash. I
think so. Yes, he's starving, but he's specifically trying to find the right kind of food, and he needs like live. He needs brains, yeah. I think it is. Like, he needs to eat brains because he's somehow a zombie now. And but they can't be like dead. So he has to go for something live. I don't know.
But he doesn't eat anything live at this point.
I think there's a trope in most horror movies and stuff like that. Have you seen like the anime Tokyo Ghoul? It's where he becomes basically they're demons that eat people, and it's the same thing happens too where he goes home and he's like, I'm hungry, and he just eats everything in the fridge and he can't keep anything down. He even throws everything up too.
Yeah, maybe it's like Tom Hardy, or I guess Eddie Brock. No, they're the same person now. So Tom Hardy realizes that he's starving but doesn't know what Venom needs to eat, so he just starts eating anything.
Yeah, I think it's more of like a Venom's trying to get him just to start eating to see what he can eat too. Because so I was gonna say this for later, that there's a part in the movie where they're like, we don't understand why people can't hold on to the symbiote. They need to eat. And I understand Venom's not from this world. He doesn't really know what he can eat on here to survive. So that kind of makes sense to why going through the fridge. But then you also have at the same time in the thing, they're like, man, these symbiotes just keep dying and we just can't figure out why. Are you even feeding the homeless people? You're telling me homeless people need to eat too?
Yeah, I thought that comes up a little bit later where you have they have a symbiote that bonded with somebody and then just dies.
Yeah.
They didn't feed him.
I want to know where in science it tells you that there's whatever chemical or protein or whatever it is in brains is also in chocolate. And I want to know where that's at.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't understand. I don't think this is real. I also don't care enough to look it up myself, but I feel like that's bullshit.
And then then it cuts to the other symbiote from that you've been watching from China who gets on a plane. You have a small scene with them getting on a plane. How that lady got on a plane, I don't know, but she gets on a plane.
Oh,
and then it cuts back to Eddie.
Technically, they absorb into a little girl. So
that's what it was.
I guess the little girl also manages to get on the plane by herself somehow because she's not with the mom when she gets off. So.
No, she was with the mom. The mom gets into a car when she gets off, and she just wanders off the other way. And this mom apparently is pretty bad, doesn't realize her kid just went missing and was walking. But hey.
So I would just like to point out the error in our ways here. We have spent so much time talking about how Venom is Tom Hardy's fluids, and then we just said that he was absorbed into a little girl, and that's something I cannot stand.
This wasn't Eddie though. This was a different one.
All right, it's someone else's fluids. Okay, yeah. That makes it so much better.
It's not at all. But let's just keep going. And
keep going.
You have Eddie hearing voices. Because Venom's talking to him, he's all confused. He doesn't know what's going on. He's running around like a madman. This is the part where I feel like the director or someone just told Tom Hardy, act like an idiot and and we'll just film it. And no one else knows what you're doing. No one else has a script. Just act like an idiot and we'll play along.
Honestly, like that probably was the best day on set ever for Tom Hardy. Like, because I know like him getting into the lobster tank was improvised. So
it was?
Yeah. So they're shooting the scene and stuff, and like he's all get up and is sweaty and stuff like that, and he's like running around doing things, and the script called for him to reach in and grab a lobster and just bite its head off. And Tom Hardy went to the production and was like, like I'm hot, I'm sweaty, like I feel like I'm freaking out. I feel like my character would get into the lobster tank. Will that tank hold me? And they said, yeah. So next take, he went and got in the lobster tank.
Okay. This part to me made sense where you have him eating the lobsters because he needs live food and he needs brain. So I bought this, but I did not realize that was improv. Okay.
Yeah.
It almost perfectly mimics the exact scene from Batman Begins where he also jumps in the lobster tank.
I don't remember what you're talking about, unfortunately.
There's a scene in Batman Begins where he shows up to a big... Is it Batman Begins?
Are you talking about he doesn't go into a lobster tank, he goes into like a fountain. I was trying to figure out what the name of a dream pool was where you throw change into, but I guess that's a fountain.
Wishing well.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen Batman Begins in a while. I really want to watch that movie again though. It's a great movie.
You finished the MCU, might as well start watching all the Batman movies now. I really like the animated ones.
Same. Well, there's one coming up probably next month, depending on what. Well, there will be a Batman movie. So I have a Patreon poll. Next month's a Batman, so depending on what wins. So go vote for $1. And then you have him, and then, which I don't understand how he didn't get arrested and taken away by the cops after he was at this fancy restaurant and sits in the lobster thing. How he didn't get arrested, I got nothing.
I
know the doctor is like, he's my patient, but still, this is America. They'd arrest you anyway. I mean, come on.
I mean, it was pretty fast. They probably he gets in the lobster tank, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And the guy immediately stopped and was like, "He's my patient. I'm sorry. Like, we'll go." I feel like they didn't have enough time to call the police before it was briefly explained away, and they left. So
it's New York. I don't know how fast the police times are in New York. But
I mean, it's New York, so it's probably like 25 minutes. Like,
and then they take him to an MRI. Somehow they just take him to the hospital and don't just lock him up somewhere, which is probably what would happen for acting crazy like that. Detox him even though he's not drunk. And they try to put him in the MRI, and this is when you see him just freaking out from the sound. And this is when they realize, and the audience would realize that, sound is bad for symbiote.
The audience that hasn't seen Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or know anything about Spider-Man in general. But it was kind of like, I like that. I liked seeing him freak out from the sounds. And then they stop the MRI, and then they don't realize that it was the sound. They just thought he's claustrophobic or something. And then it jumps back. And this is when you see the test subject dying, who had a successful symbiote. This also bothered me because before this movie came out, before I watched this movie, I thought there was going to be more than one symbiote because of what they were basing this off of, what arc. And instead, you don't get that. They killed this other symbiote. They killed Scream, which still upsets me because that was Scream. I'm sure it was. They kill all these different things. And the only symbiote that survived is the one that Eddie Brock stole. So,
and then the other one wandering around, which I don't know if it's like hopping or whatever, but it seems to me like the symbiote running around that's trying to get to where they're at doesn't also follow the rule that you have to.
They don't need one particular host. They can find multiple people that are okay. It's just certain hosts are better than others, but they can find more people they can connect with in the way the movie made it look like.
Yeah, because I think the plot for the movie is that they're just not feeding the symbiotes at all. That's the reason why they're all dying in the tanks.
Which is just stupid. You think this rich scientist who clearly doesn't give a shit about ethics would at least be feeding them something.
Yeah. Never thinks. He's just, I'm not going to waste.
I don't know why you would think that, Mike.
I'm not going to waste money on these homeless people that I'm going to be experimenting on. They can just survive off, air.
Liquid diet, he said at one point.
Oh, well, yeah, that does it.
That's even better. So now you don't know whether it's diarrhea or a symbiote coming out of their bodies.
And then you have Eddie on a cable car all of a sudden for some reason freaking out. I don't remember much about the cable car. I just put in my note he was on a cable car.
Oh,
I think because it's in San Francisco and they have to have the cable car contractually. I think it's a must. It's an Ant-Man and the Wasp too. I mean,
so
now the question is, did Full House have a cable car they went on at some point?
Yeah, it's in the intro. I think it's in the intro.
It's in the intro.
As a guy who watched way too much Fuller House because his wife really liked it, yes, it's in the intro. I'm pretty sure.
So I have a weird question. What job does Anne's new fiance have that he can do what he wants? Because he literally gives Eddie Brock a free MRI. He also offers to give him medication and to do surgery to get the parasite out because they don't know what it is. And he offers to do all of it for free.
I mean, let me tell you, that's the kind of doctor I want.
Right?
That's the job he has. That's the kind of doctor that you go, hey, can I have some Percocets? And he goes, oh, yeah. There you go.
He pulls 3 different bottles out of his pocket.
I've actually been carrying these around.
Yeah, that's a little odd how you're just able to help him without nobody, trying to yeah, it's not how hospitals work.
But to be fair, that is something that, we've talked about how there are things in this movie that have no point to the plot whatsoever. That is really something that really means nothing to the plot. He
It
did
really
it.
doesn't.
He was able to do it by whatever means it took.
Yeah,
Could you imagine the 10-minute conversation that we'd have to sit through of, okay, so this is what I want to do.
We're gonna put you on some antibacterial stuff and some, so
come back in a week. If things haven't gotten better, we'll get an appointment. We'll check with your insurance. You can cover an MRI. And then we'll get back to you.
Eddie Brock, who the
Do you
only
think
thing
Eddie Brock has insurance?
Yeah,
He doesn't. That's why he wouldn't have been in the hospital. They would have just kicked him out. You don't have insurance? Get out of here.
And he doesn't have the cash to pay in cash either.
What was it? Eddie Brock, who only has 2 bags of tater tots and a beer in his fridge.
He had 3 beers in his fridge, sir.
Okay.
That's more than I have in my fridge currently because I drank my beer.
Oof. Sad day for you, right?
I have more beer. I have more beer sitting next to it. I've been too lazy to put it in the fridge because then I'll drink it. So that won't be happening later. And then I put in my note, you have at apartment talking to Anne. This on the phone, I think, where he's saying, "Oh yeah, how he's all infected and having issues and stuff or something," and she's worried about him.
Hey, Anne, I'm infected. You should get yourself checked out.
My fluids are infecting me. My fluids are definitely infecting you.
Look, I'm not saying that my fluids are radioactive, but if they were, they would probably kill you.
Nah.
I hope someone gets that joke.
Isn't that a Spider-Man joke?
That's what I was going to say. You're hitting too close to home with Mary Jane here.
Yeah.
No, there's a Spider-Man joke where in one of the Spider-Man comics, she does die from having sex with him over the years because of radioactive. She gets
cancer from his radioactive semen. Yes.
That's the thing in the comics. In one of those weird arcs, one of those weird what if stories somewhere. I forget what story it is, but yeah, that is a thing.
It's one of the many weird.
It's not even a what if. It's like the main canon. It's one of the many times that he has gone to Mephisto to get Mephisto to change something.
I forget what story it is, but yeah, that's nothing to hear. And you have the guitar guy being an asshole again. And this time, I like this. He goes in there and threatens him, and you see Venom start to come out. So he has part of the symbiote, just like the face, and then he's threatening him. So the guy just okay.
I have a question. Where do the bodies go when Venom eats them?
Venom says that.
He does?
Yeah, he says, "Do we throw them in the corner? Bodies in one corner, heads in the other."
Okay.
But where? It's just Eddie in there. Does it go into Eddie's stomach? When what the fuck happens?
I would imagine it's a form of absorption. So whenever Venom bites off a dude's head, it just kind of gets absorbed into the body.
It dissolves and absorbs into Eddie's skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go with that.
So I remember when this came out, if you showed me the clip of Eddie fighting these dudes in his apartment and just showed me the beginning and cut off at the end and went, "Hey, look, that was a teaser for a prototype movie," I would have 100% believe you.
I like the scene.
No, it's a good scene. I'm just saying, it's. I wouldn't mind seeing a prototype movie, in the same
really
fashion.
Like seeing him fight them all off and just take them out. Why he's still not really Venom, he's still Eddie, but he has the symbiote is coming out here and there. I thought it was really well done. Actually, I was surprised how much I liked it.
I liked, honestly, the action sequences in this movie were all really good. From the motorcycle sequence all the way to minus the final battle, but motorcycle sequence all the way to the him killing all the people in the lobby of that building.
That's a good scene too. But the next one is the whole drone chase where he jumps on his motorcycle and he's running away from them. And this was actually this was a really good action scene. I felt you were saying where he's getting chased by drones, he's getting chased by cars. He's like, "I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die!" You're not gonna die. It's just.
And they pulled an Adam West Batman where Venom went down and reached a light pole and did a great 90-degree turn. It was great.
It was really humorous too. It was a good scene. It was actually a pretty good chase scene. And after watching Book of Boba Fett, I needed a good chase scene instead of them getting chased after with little mopeds. So this is nice.
Like I said, I just saw the Batman, so I just watched a much better chase scene.
That chase scene is very cool. Yeah, that was apparently that whole chase scene was done with no CGI.
That's amazing.
Man, I need to go see this movie.
I do know this chase scene is the big this was what everyone was showing in promotions and everything. Tom Hardy on the motorcycle and the drones and people trying to pick and figure out what's going on, especially because this ends with the introduction of the full-bodied Venom.
Oh yeah, and then which was cool to see. They knock him out and then they're gonna take him away. I think at this part, but this is where Venom ends up. Does he eat a guy for the first time too in this scene?
Yes.
Yeah, and also he came out because Eddie's entire body was brutally destroyed.
Yeah.
So, which I saw that and I was like, this is the grossness I was waiting for the whole time.
So it fits it because that's what the symbiotes can do. They can heal you.
Yeah.
So
it was cool.
Then I have my note: runs away. Venom runs away.
Are you telling me, Adam, that you would love to see a Venom game that has the healing aspect as the Wolverine, the game of the movie?
Yeah. That's a good game, by the way. X-Men Origins Wolverine.
It's a good game up till the final boss fight.
Well,
I don't remember it.
that's better than
Exactly.
the movie.
I like that movie.
It's an okay
The movie's
movie.
fine.
I remember really liking that movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, so we'll see that. But
that movie is great till the ending.
that fake Deadpool crap is bad.
Mhm.
I don't mind the Deadpool stuff because they were leaving the door open for the sequel, which never happened.
It wasn't Deadpool. You took Ryan Reynolds and shut his mouth. That's not the worst thing you can do to Ryan Reynolds.
But in the post-credit scene, Deadpool's mouth was ripped open.
Yeah, where's that sequel?
Retconned away.
Yeah, I mean, it's if the movie would have done good.
And then you have Venom for the first time is really talking to Eddie and they're communicating back and forth, and he starts to realize that what the symbiote is. I think he even sees Venom for the first time at this point too.
So
It
go ahead, Mike.
I think it starts to kind of make sense for him what's happening.
Yeah, this gives me like several questions of the other, like I said, the other symbiotes, because if Eddie can talk to his, but then again, I want to say Eddie's lasted longer than most people have, I think is kind of what they're getting at too. But not once has a symbiote been like, hey, you should tell that idiot behind the glass we need actual food and not whatever the hell you're feeding us right now.
Yeah, they would have communicated.
Yeah, and also I've noticed this in this and in the sequel as well. I've noticed that like Eddie has never done the thing where Venom comes out of his shoulder around people. It's always just by himself.
Yes.
Why, I have no idea. Maybe it costs too much money. Who knows?
And then you have the other symbiote that we've been following finally makes it to San Francisco. And I was really confused. I'm like, who the hell is this symbiote that keeps just traveling across the freaking, country, like the world? I didn't get that. I was a little confused. I was confused why this was a thing. So
I don't know.
He wanted to
Mike,
get to
you're
the lab.
asking too many questions.
yeah, this movie didn't ask those questions when they were writing, apparently.
Maybe they did, and then they just started cutting shit. And by the time they realized that they had edited too much away, it was too late.
I super believe that they edited the shit out of this movie because this
100%.
This movie was like an hour and a half when I first watched it, and then I think I watched the uncut version on YouTube last night, and it was almost 2 hours.
I watched it on Stars. It was an hour and 52 with credits.
Yeah, I remember the movie originally being an hour and a half, unless I'm like super wrong.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you're just super wrong.
Because there's
The second movie is short.
The
Yeah,
second movie is like an hour 20.
that might be it then. I'm thinking the second movie, but I do know there's a scene I think that wasn't in the original cut, and then they added it to the DVD release, and I'll talk about that at the end.
Okay. You have Anne looking for Eddie and all freaking out about her ex-fiance that she left because he got her fired and wondering where he is, which I thought was interesting. Okay, no, there is, when you search Venom, there is a 2-hour, 20-minute runtime. It says an hour and 52. So, yeah.
Huh.
I don't know what that, I don't know. But the Let There Be Carnage is 90 minutes. I'm not sure why I got two different things just now, but okay. Yeah. So maybe you're right. There was an uncut version of some sort. Okay. And then you have Anne looking for Eddie, and then you have Venom. He climbs up a building. They sit at the top of the building, and they're like, oh, look at this building. Because he's trying to get in the building. For some reason, he's going to go to his old boss and give him information, and his old boss is just going to read it. Yeah, okay, that's how that works. Security guard doesn't let him in, and then he decides to climb up the building.
Yes.
As Venom. And then you have a funny scene with a plane comes over, and he loses his ability to be Venom for a little bit and starts falling off the building to his death.
So like I said, I do feel like there's reasons why like there's stuff cut from this movie, like Adam was saying. And like that's one of the things I have to believe, because that dude may be rich, but there's never anything that doesn't imply like, hey, maybe even the police in the city are on it. Like, no, just go take it to the cops, dude. Like, come on.
Why would
Yeah,
you
he
do
really
something
should have.
like that?
I didn't understand why he didn't take it to the cops. Like why he went to his old company who has no reason to listen to him, who can't publish what he got because he got it illegally.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get that either. And then he goes in the building, and I thought this was funny too, because he goes in the building, he puts it on the guy's desk where he just broke the window, like, here, read this. He leaves his phone, and then he takes the elevator downstairs.
Yeah.
Because he's too chicken to jump out the window.
Would you? I would, because I have a big symbiote in me now, but
I hate heights too,
100%.
but I mean, come on, you just broke into a building. You're not expecting things to happen. You're not expecting the police to be waiting for you at the bottom.
now, to be fair, there's no indication that him breaking in the building set any alarms off.
You broke a window. I don't care what building, any building. I'm pretty sure if you break a giant window in a building, somebody's aware.
That's fair too. Is that why the police show up at the end?
Yes. Which is a great scene to see Venom take out the SWAT team.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great scene. I really enjoyed this action scene with them, with that happening, because apparently he didn't murder them. He pulled a Batman in Arkham Knight where he just knocked them out. Yeah, they're okay.
Batman versus Superman, where he gets shot a bunch of times, but doesn't matter.
It was just that's a terrible movie. Let's never mention that movie again in life, please.
And then
terrible.
And then the police having probably the only thing that could probably hurt Venom, which is flashbangs.
They do hurt Venom.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting too. There's a guy with a sniper rifle and there's gas going around. Gas won't affect Venom, so it's a really great just to show off what they can do. And I just wish there was more of it in this movie. But it's also the first movie of the series. There's a lot more of it in the sequel.
Yeah, sequel's pretty good from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Had a terrible time seeing it in theaters, but it's a good movie. Terrible time because the movie cut out after 5 minutes, and then I had to wait half an hour for them to put the movie back in. So
why the movie cut out? Did you figure out why?
They started the 3D cut instead of what we paid for, the standard, and they couldn't just let us watch 3Ds and we didn't pay for it, apparently.
Okay.
Because, that'd be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
When I went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, they forgot to turn the lights off for 45 minutes until someone got up and told them.
That makes sense.
That movie's terrible, so it's okay.
Oh, thank God someone else agrees with me.
I have a whole episode about that movie if you want to hear it. I cut down that movie for 2 hours.
I hate that movie so much.
That movie, I like 30% of that movie.
That's 45% more than you should like from that movie.
The first one's a good movie.
The first one's great.
The second one's god-awful. And it sucks. It shouldn't have been awful, but that's neither here nor there. And then you have somehow the little girl symbiote gets all the way inside Drake's lab past this terrible security, gets all the way to Drake, and he's in his lab. He goes, "Oh, how'd you get here?" Not, "What the fuck are you doing? Where's my security?"
Tackle her.
Something you think would have went on, not just, "What are you doing in here, sweetie?" Like, that's how it was odd to me. And then she infects Drake. And I thought Drake was going to die, not become a symbiote.
I mean, that's what he wants at the end of the day, isn't it? I guess.
Yes, it is. And this is when you have him starting to let, he goes and he starts this whole, I missed the scene here in my notes, but we'll get back to that. We'll turn that back. That's later. Never mind. This is, and then he's getting ready to start the whole shuttle, I think. And then he turns into Riot and just kills a bunch of people.
That's never,
which I like.
Yeah, I always thought that was weird. I don't know why I have it like pinned in the back of my head that the reason why he did that is because when he killed them, he also ate them. But it's also a weird thing of like, man, that symbiote doesn't know what it's doing, because if he killed all those people, who's going to fly the ship?
Apparently Riot knew how.
I guess, yeah.
Because that's what Riot says, too, that he knew how to do it. Or the Drake makes a comment, but it's essentially Riot telling him, we can do it fine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene that I cut out in my notes that I can't find now, and I forget that I know happens. I remember it, where they go to they take Eddie to the hospital, and then they try the MRI again, and then this time he loses they kick the symbiote out of him with a sound. They lock the symbiote up, and Eddie gets captured and taken to the lab because he's got to be there now. And at the same time, you have Venom, who ends up sneaking out, taking over a dog, and then takes over Anne, and then goes to rescue Eddie because they're going to shoot him in the woods.
So the weird thing about that, which doesn't really make it out, and I really could have been cut. It could have been a thing of, hey, I came to see you at the hospital to get some advice. Is there's a weird thing where it's like, oh my God, Eddie, Venom's killing you. And he's like, oh my God. But I feel like that's a wasted opportunity where they really could have done like in the original comics because doesn't in the original comics Eddie have cancer, and that's the reason why he keeps Venom around too?
No, you're thinking of Jane Foster Thor.
If you're not thinking of Flash, does the Flash not have legs?
What?
Flash
runs.
No.
Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
Flash Thompson doesn't have legs, yes.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. Flash Thompson keeps Eddie, the Venom around because he doesn't have legs.
But that's also Agent Venom.
Yeah.
That's a different character, kind of, for some reason.
Space Agent Venom.
And then I don't remember a whole lot of, I just remember, and then you have, which I know made the comic book world go crazy, because when so Venom takes over Anne, and then they're going to go shoot Eddie, and then Anne version of Venom, She-Venom, which is in the comics, goes and saves him and then makes out with him, and then Venom transfers over.
Yeah, people were really freaking out of that because it's not a big thing, but it's always one of the things of, oh, we're never going to see Venom in comics because Marvel and Sony are too much of a cowards, and then you get like this 2 seconds of it happening in this, and everyone just loses their mind.
When I saw it in theaters, one solitary person went, "That's She-Venom!" And that's it. That was it. One dude, one probably really gross, like 48-year-old dude, just was like freaking out by She-Venom.
Well, speaking of random things in theater, when I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, there was a scene when, spoiler alert for Spider-Man No Way Home, which would have been spoiled by now if you are on the internet, and when Andrew Garfield went to go jump to save Zendaya, people would, "No, not Andrew!" Some kid did. I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, because he had to be like maybe 10 or 12, and I just heard in the background, "Not Andrew Garfield! Anybody but Andrew Garfield!"
I thought you were gonna say, did anybody because I had my theater cheer pretty decently for everything in that movie, but did anybody freak out for the Daredevil reveal?
I think people were cheering. I think
my theater was basically silent the whole movie. It was awful.
Lame. Yeah,
I was like, literally, things would happen, and like no one would do anything. And I like one time I went, "Woo!" and then people started clapping, and I think it was when Andrew saved MJ, and I went, "Woo!" and people started clapping, and I was like, "What the fuck kind of theater is this?" And I saw it
for you.
I saw it the Thursday night, like opening evening, and no one's fucking cheering. Like, this is the first time any of us are seeing this movie, and this is the lamest experience of my life.
One of the best Marvel movies in general, too.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters, and every that Andrew Garfield part, my whole theater was going fucking nuts, and I was loving every moment of it.
My fiance and I were both crying at that part because we had been watching all 5 Spider-Man films leading up. It's like the 5 not franchised ones, and like we watched that, and I'm like, he saved her, and we both looked at each other, and we were like, "Oh my god!"
This Amazing Spider-Man 2 is when she dies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that movie's terrible, but okay.
In an alternate universe, we're talking about that movie.
All right, and then you have Venom ends up finally going and attacking Riot, and you have a little scene where they're fighting on the rocket, and somehow Riot can make blades. Fine, whatever, I don't care. I like this. I like the CG fight. I was happy to see it.
I hated it.
You also have the weird moment where I think Venom reveals he kind of sucks on his own home planet.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm a loser just like you, Eddie," which I did not like that.
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
He's not. Venom was not. I don't think he was like that.
Well, according to comic lore now, he's a demigod, isn't he? Isn't he like the new like symbiote god?
I don't even know. I read King in Black and still don't understand King in Black, and also hated King in Black. So I don't know who's leading now.
I haven't read any. I don't read stuff current very often, so I just read old arcs when I cover them on a podcast.
The new stuff is really weird. There's like a symbiote god and
Krull, right?
Yeah, Krull.
Yeah. Or Null. His name Null.
Yeah.
Knull. Null.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And I think like at some point Venom sprouts bat wings, and Venom gets his sword, which honestly has the most badass name in existence, which I believe the sword's name is like the All Black.
I think so.
Yeah. And yeah, it's Venom's like the most powerful symbiote in existence right now, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a King in Black is a direct spin-off from the Maximum Carnage run, whatever, or absolute, or I can't.
It's not Maximum Carnage because that's
no. I think not. It's not Absolute Carnage. I don't know. They just did like 2 years ago a big Carnage crossover event and
Venomverse.
No, something Carnage.
Well, it's 2017, so you can listen to us. Google. Don't worry, I'll edit out all the silences. King in Black.
No, that's
Absolute Carnage.
Happened. Absolute Carnage. So Absolute Carnage is phenomenal. And then King in Black is the direct sequel to Absolute Carnage. And King in Black, I like all of Absolute Carnage, including the crossover comics and random shit, was all good. King in Black was only good for like 3 issues, and that was it. And I was like, "Woo, what a big build-up for nothing."
I might have to read it at some point. I need to read more comics, but that's
same.
All right, and then you have the fight, and then as they're fighting at one point, I know that she puts on the speakers, Anne turns on the speakers, so then they both lose both of their symbiotes, and you have Eddie just fighting the Doctor hand in hand.
Yeah, and let me tell you, Riz Ahmed is no match for Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy eats his oats and beef every day, so
yeah.
and then you have Riot ends up getting the symbiote back because he kicks off the guy to kill him, and then when he does that, at the same time you have the Riot get back into the symbiote, jump up, and then he stabs and almost kills Tom Hardy, or would have killed Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, this is when Venom comes back to him, heals him, and saves him. And then he takes the giant blade that he had and uses the blade to cut the fuel line on the ship.
So backpedal a little bit.
Sure.
I still think my favorite part, if there were more Venom movies or even movies like this in general, I love seeing the part where like the symbiotes are ripping each other off of their host, and like you kind of see Eddie and whatever the hell his name is, like fist fighting, like being pulled out of their costumes. Yeah, that part's really cool.
I think that's something that the second Venom movie did well, is they improved on the CGI fluid versus fluid fight. Like this one I did not like in this one. It was way too CGI'd, but I think they did a good job in Venom 2.
I have to rewatch Venom 2 now because I actually like that movie a lot more than this one.
Second movie's not bad.
They definitely took what worked in Venom and then only made the movie about that, which is why the movie's it's like half the amount of time. But, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I look forward to seeing it eventually. Again. And then you have him cut the fuel. He blows up the jet, and then Eddie gets knocked into the water. And then you think Venom died because he goes and he saves Eddie as a parachute.
Yeah, he also blocks the fire, I think is what it is, too.
Which would have killed him. But hey, what do I know? So after that, you have a small scene with Eddie talking with Anne. She's like, oh, it's too bad about Venom and this and that. And I'm like, why are you guys friends now again? But okay, whatever. And
hey, man, there's nothing about having that. Like Ant-Man and Wasp was it really well, too. There's nothing wrong with having a good relationship with your ex and her current partner.
No, agreed. It never worked out for me that way.
It worked out for me.
You aren't Tom Hardy, Mike.
I'm not.
We've made this clear.
Actually, I'm friends with my ex now, but we hated each other for about 10 years before we finally, we became cool after a while. We also had a kid together, too, and we hated each other for years. So,
I'm best friends with someone I dated, and I'm glad we didn't date because we're much better off as best friends. But there's my favorite line in this movie, hands down. My favorite line in this movie improves that Venom and Eddie are equally both in a relationship, which is, so we back together because of that kiss, right? When you were Venom, and she's like, oh, that wasn't even my idea. That was all Venom. Wait, really? Yeah, no, he wanted to kiss you. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then, of course, the teaser of, oh man, if only Venom was alive, and you hear him in the background snickering because he's totally inside of him right now.
And then you have the part that made me almost want to cry. You have a Stan Lee cameo.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I almost went, no, Stan Lee's in this. I forgot, dude. I was like, oh, I was like, oh, this is sad. Like,
I'm upset that they haven't found someone else to do cameos now.
There's other people who worked at Marvel who are known too, but
I always thought they said they were going to CGI him into movies as Easter eggs now, because didn't they reveal they have like a big like they CGI'd his head, like they took a scan of his face and everything?
I'm sure they can do it, and with today's technology, you don't even need the scan of his face. You can just figure, like, you have enough footage of him that you could make a fake face for him.
Mm-hmm.
They can do it. I think they should.
Look at Mark Hamill in Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. So,
all right. Well, but in Mandalorian 2, that wasn't good.
No.
I wouldn't know. I have yet to watch either of those series, and I don't know why.
I've seen both Mandalorians, and I've seen the first 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and so far, I'm vaguely fine with Mandalorian and hate Boba Fett.
Boba Fett is tough.
No spoilers for Boba Fett on this.
It's just tough. That's all I can say. And there's 2 episodes that, we'll watch it. It's worth one watch, and listen to my episode too. But it's worth a watch. And then you had he talks with Venom as they're walking down the street, and people are looking at him like he's insane because he can't just talk inside his head because you think he probably should be able to. And he goes back to the convenience store, and the robber goes to the convenience store, and this time as Venom he kills it. He stops him, and then he eats him.
No, you're forgetting your favorite part, Mike.
What?
Where he gives the guy the talk.
He's gonna throw his body down the street like a turd in the wind.
Oh yeah. That was so fucking stupid.
I don't even like that was in the trailer and I couldn't comprehend it then. And I was like, okay, in the movie it will make much more sense. And the movie it made less sense than it did in the trailer.
If they had made that scene for just the trailer, I would fully understand that. Like how the Joker doesn't say we live in a society. Like if that whole line had not been in that movie, I would have completely understood.
Like, and I want to know who in the writer's room has seen a turd in the wind to like even think that was an okay reference to make.
Well, since you asked, I can give you a personal story.
Sure. I want to see. Tell me about your turd. Going
it wasn't a turd in the wind, but I did have recently where a turd was on the floor, and somebody where I work that lives there picked up the turd and was going to give it to us to clean up, and was walking around with a turd.
Oh, dude,
that's awful.
No, it's where I work in memory care, so that's a little different. But yeah, they were just trying to help. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't in the wind, but yeah.
So my favorite retcon of this movie, which is kind of to Venom 2, is we get the after credit scene of Kia's Cassidy, and everyone laughed at that fucking wig, and they did not bring it back for the sequel.
I turned off the movie before this.
Oh God. So, well, I'd like to point out that all of Woody Harrelson's wigs between these two movies are pretty awful. He never had a good hairstyle once.
But I think in Venom 2, isn't it his own hair? It's not a wig, or
Woody Harrelson has no hair.
I mean, you could fake hair though. You get what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, but Woody Harrelson's bald, so no matter what they do,
bald sometimes. Yeah. I guess.
No, he's completely bald. He has like the wisps on top of his head. I think the last time Woody Harrelson had his own hair in a movie was like the bowling movie, Kingpin or whatever, and he has like no hair. Like he has like the wisps on top of his head, and that's all he has.
Okay.
So yeah, it's always a wig.
What's even weirder is you can compare that credit scene is the same scene in in Venom 2. They just reshot it without the wig.
That's funny.
They also changed where he was in prison.
I thought he was still in prison in that big square thing, because I swear that's the exact same scene.
I don't remember. I've never watched them back to back. Maybe I'll do that this weekend.
Same.
I could. I think it's on Stars too, and I unfortunately am paying for Stars because I didn't cancel it apparently 3 months ago, and I thought I did. So
that's on you. That's because you're not Tom Hardy. Still, circles back, Mike.
Well, I think we should go on to Shelf Stacker Box now. And Joe, why don't you go first?
So this is a very favorite movie of mine, especially because of all the very gay undertones in this one and the sequel. So this is going to go on the shelf. This is one of my top movies.
Is it watched by top men too?
Yes.
Okay.
Top men watch my top movies.
Who's working on it? Top men are top men. I love that line. All right, I'll go next. I'm going to put this in the stack because I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it for the most part. I don't think I need to rewatch it anytime soon. I think I'm good, but I'm glad I finally got to watch it. It's a decent movie. It's weird. It feels like Tom Hardy was playing a different part than everyone else, had a different script and no idea what was going on half the time, but hey, it was fine. It's a movie that's worth watching. I'm glad it exists, but I don't need to see it again. So in the stack, I'm good. What about you, Adam?
Well, theoretically, I would put it in the stack. In reality, it's on that shelf right there. But I would put it in the stack because, it's one of those that, I would only ever watch it when I do, like an MCU rewatch or a franchise rewatch or something, so once every 5 years, I'll watch it.
Okay. That's about what it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. And again, I want to say, as I forgot to say at the top of the show, thank you, patrons, for voting for this, because I would not have chose this. I was actually going to have us do Amazing Spider-Man. That was my goal to have win. It did not win. But thank you guys for making me finally watch this movie.
Hey, I mean, according to the internet, Venom is in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. So
yeah, we'll find that out next month.
Yeah.
What? I'm confused.
So the big theory right now is that the whole the Sony Spider-Man universe that's going on right now with Venom and Morbius and all that is set in the Amazing Spider-Man webverse.
Okay.
Yeah, There's a big rumor that everyone wants the Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then like basically everyone wants an Amazing Spider-Man 3 and a Spider-Man 4 to close off both movies finally, since they both prove that people really want Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back. And there's like people wanting like, oh, can we have the Amazing Spider-Man 3 with a dark Andrew Garfield and him getting a symbiote suit and then him pulling it off at the end and having a happy ending?
I don't want to. I could see an Amazing Spider-Man 3. I don't want the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4, but I could see them tying up loose ends in a crossover movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing a Amazing Spider-Man team up with Tobey Maguire and that story there. But
they don't need to do another Spider-Man 4. Just that franchise is done.
To be fair, they say it best in No Way Home, which is I think Dr. Octopus does ask him. He's like, "So how's life going?" He's like, "Gonna have to wait and see."
Nah.
Apparently, there's a rumor that they shot a post-credit scene within each universe, inside Tobey's universe and inside Andrew's universe, to kind of wrap things up for them, and didn't get released.
I'm not surprised. They have have you seen like the art for like Infinity War or Endgame, where like there's stuff of like Tony Stark wearing the Eye of whatever and Doctor Strange wearing the Iron Man suit, which in concept they wouldn't know where to put it, and that's why they never put it in the movie. But I would love to see every single moment of that.
Yeah, apparently they shot these two scenes and they just felt like it didn't work. So maybe we'll get it in like deleted scenes or something when the movie comes out.
Yeah, they said that the No Way Home movie has like 2 hours of cutscenes or something and back stuff?
They said that there's a full like extra 20 minutes of just Toby and Andrew stuff.
Mm-hmm, I believe it.
Like I'm ready. I can't wait to buy that Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's probably one of like the 10 Blu-rays I'll buy that year.
Right? Because I hate Blu-rays, but I'll buy it just for bonus features.
I don't buy any Blu-rays and ever anything like that anymore.
I just get DVDs. I get DVDs for the collection for the shelf, and that's it.
I don't even buy DVDs. I just watch everything streaming. If it's not on streaming, I just won't watch it probably.
Oh, see, so I get the DVDs so that way it's legal that I have digital copies of them all.
And they still might contest depending on how you got that digital copy.
No, apparently you're completely legally allowed to like rip your DVDs and have digital copies of them. And that's
how you
what,
got
like
those digital copies.
Yeah, well, apparently torrenting sites were made originally for people who didn't know how to rip DVDs, so they made torrenting sites for people to download digital copies of their DVDs. And then people got smart and downloaded digital copies of movies that they don't have.
Oh, my days.
And that's the illegal part.
Yeah, I haven't messed with that in a long time.
I never have messed with it ever. Never ever.
Me either. Yep. Not when I was poor and made $10 an hour and didn't have any money. Nope, never.
Never once done. Definitely didn't do it this morning.
All right, and Adam, where can people find you at?
You can find me on You Hate to See It podcast. 3 best friends get drunk, interview people. It's a great time. Mike's been on a few times.
Yes, been on twice.
And yeah, so follow us wherever you find podcasts. We're available on all social medias, and we also have a Patreon, not a Patreon, but it came with the website that we got. So,
okay.
There it is. Give me money, please.
I know how it goes.
I want to quit my job, please.
Well, that's a lot harder than I could never do that. I could, no matter how much money the show made, I could never quit my job.
That's good. Maybe you like your job or something, but I don't.
I like my job for the most part, yes.
Okay. Yep. See there. That's the difference.
I like my job, but my job's constantly on thin ice.
So, yeah.
And that's all we have to say about the movie.
Yeah, I think that's everything I need to say for the movie. And then if you enjoyed this, go watch the rest of our films that we do. We do a bunch of different film movies. So definitely go check that out. Film movie. We do a film episode. We do comics. We do games. We do all sorts of stuff on this podcast. If you can't find anything on the regular podcast, like on whatever podcast you use, iTunes, just use Podbean has everything. So definitely go check that out. All right. And again, this was brought to you by patrons. People voting our monthly poll. So definitely go do that. The current poll is a Batman poll. And when you're hearing this, you only have about a week left to do that. So you get to choose what Batman movie we're going to cover. So definitely go do that.
But what Batman movies, Mike?
Batman Under the Red Hood, which is currently winning, Batman 1989, Batman Forever, and Batman Ninja, just because I wanted to see if anyone would vote for it.
I've never seen Batman Ninja.
Me
I
neither.
haven't either.
One of my friends used to work at Target, and he stole it from Target to give me a DVD of it, and I never watched it, and I sold it.
Is it on HBO Max?
Yes, it is.
Probably.
So yeah, that's all I got. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for joining me for this. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody. Oh, wait, God, I'm forgetting to say things. Give a shout out to my intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fury. Follow her on TikTok. My God, it's been a long day. And the day just started. And I also give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did all the MCU episodes with me. Started his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40. All right, that's everything I got to say. Now, goodbye, everybody. Bye.